To talk about this subject today, we're going to have to go all the way back to when I was in high school in the 80s. Hi, if you don't know me, my name is Michael Joseph, and today I want to talk about something that I learned all the way back in high school that is carrying me on through all of my creative stuff that I'm doing right now. Luckily, in the high school that I went to, I was able to take photography classes. And back then, it was film photography. So we learned to shoot on film, we actually learned to develop our own film, and we learned to print our own pictures. So throughout the 2 years of the classes that I took, you had different projects that you had to do. Some might be high contrast or fast shutter speed or portraits, and you would take those at the end of the class when the project was ready to turn in, and you would put them up on the shelf in front of the room, and we all would talk about the projects that were up there. We would talk about each person's photograph. And I don't exactly remember what the project was, but there was one person in the room, I don't remember his name, but he did a thing that now is called shutter drag, and it's where when you're taking a picture, you move the camera. Now, if you're intending to do that, it can look very good, but if you're doing that while you're taking the picture, that can look really bad. And he wasn't trying to do that in the shot. He was trying to take an honest shot, but I guess he was in a hurry or something, and that's all he got was shots that were drug. And when we looked around the different things and took our turns picking out the ones we like, they asked me which one I like, and I picked his. And everybody looked at me like I was insane because his wasn't even close to what the project required. I just liked it, and I explained why I liked that artisticness of that pool, and it took me a long time to figure out what that means. Now, since then, I've taken a whole lot of photos that do have that shutter drag, and I do love them, but something you have to realize is that not all the time the most perfect photo is the one people want or the one people like. Oftentimes, the imperfections of a photo, even if they're minute or major, can be what people like. One of the things that I think photographers have a lot of trouble with nowadays is the fact that people like how photos look that are taken on smartphones. They're with their multi-$1,000 camera, and someone is snapping a shot with their phone, and then everybody's like, oh, I like this shot the best, and they have problems with that. And that's one of the things that I think you have to realize, and that I learned back then, that it is not necessarily the most perfect shot that tells the best story or has the most emotion. Now, something I want to point out for those of you who plan or are currently making money doing art, the person who's asking you to do that art or has commissioned you to do that or is posing for the portrait, they may not want what you see. And that's something as an artist who gets paid, you have to realize that. Now, I've spent a lot of my life as a DJ, and I can't tell you how many times where I've been DJing in a club, place is absolutely packed the whole night, literal line out the door. Place was jumping the whole night. I get to the end of the night, I'm packing up, I look at the manager or the owner, and I say, it was a good night, wasn't it? And they look at me and go, I don't know, I haven't looked at how much we've rung in yet. So to them, a busy night means nothing unless they are making money. So you have to realize who you're working for. Your perspective on what you think a great photo is isn't always what everyone thinks a great photo is. The point I want to make with this today is that there is nothing wrong with trying to improve your skills and do better and buy better equipment and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes when you're trying to tell a story or you're trying to evoke an emotion, what you do in that picture, that video, that art, that whatever, what you do with that is more important than the perfection of it. A story that is told in a certain way, a picture that is painted with certain colors, a photograph that maybe has a little bit of the wrong side blurred, can put an emotion to that picture that if it was properly exposed is just not going to be there. You don't always have to chase the pixels. You can chase the feeling. And I think that's what most people get out of music, they get out of art, they get out of anything like that. It's how they feel. How does that picture make them feel? How does that song make them feel? And as an artist, we get caught up in trying to do the best we can and make the best thing we can make. And I want to encourage you to sometimes let that go and let your art and your creation kind of have its own life and see where it takes you. As always, I really hope this helps, and if you have any questions about this idea or you want to see something else, feel free to drop me a note. Until next time, take care and God bless.